Here is why Brienne swore loyalty to Sansa Stark after Catelyn's death. Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Today, we journey back into the intricate world of Westeros to explore a tale of honor, duty, and unwavering loyalty. One that spans the brutal politics of war-torn kingdoms and cuts through the deceit, betrayal, and darkness that define Game of Thrones. We're talking about Brienne of Tarth, a knight unlike any other, and her deeply moving decision to swear allegiance to Sansa Stark, the daughter of the woman she once vowed to protect, Lady Catelyn Stark. But why did Brienne, out of all the players in the Game of Thrones, choose Sansa? What made her journey from Renly Baratheon's Kingsguard to Catelyn's sword, and finally to Sansa's sworn shield, so meaningful? Was it just a promise she made to a dying woman? Or was it something deeper? Something rooted in pain, admiration, and the brutal loss of innocence in a world where vows are often broken? Let's unpack the full story, from Brienne's earliest trials to the heartbreaking loss of Catelyn, and how Sansa came to inherit not only her mother's title, but the unwavering loyalty of one of the most honorable knights in Westeros. This is the full story of why Brienne swore loyalty to Sansa Stark. To understand why Brienne swore loyalty to Sansa Stark, we must first understand Brienne herself, her background, her trials, and how she became one of the few characters in Game of Thrones who stayed true to her values. Born the only child of Lord Catelyn Tarth of Evenfall Hall, Brienne was never treated with the admiration most noble daughters received. She was mocked for her appearance, called Brienne the Beauty as a cruel joke, and struggled to find acceptance in both the courts of Westeros and the battlefield. But Brienne never gave in. She trained herself as a warrior, developing incredible skill with a sword, choosing to live by the knightly code, even if she was never formally knighted. Her first taste of true purpose came when she joined the Kingsguard of Renly Baratheon, a man she admired and perhaps even loved. Her time serving Renly brought her into the complex web of Westerosi politics, and ended in tragedy when Renly was assassinated by a shadow creature birthed by Melisandre. Devastated and blamed for Renly's death, Brienne fled with Catelyn Stark, who saw something in her that no one else had: honor, strength, and loyalty. Brienne, broken and grieving, swore an oath to Catelyn Stark, vowing to protect her and her daughters, Arya and Sansa. And it was this oath, a simple vow spoken in the midst of chaos, that would guide Brienne's every step after. But tragedy struck again. At the infamous Red Wedding, Catelyn Stark was brutally murdered. And yet, even in the face of that loss, Brienne did not forget her vow. Most people in Westeros would have seen the Red Wedding as an end. Robb Stark and his mother were dead. Their banners were torn down. The North was in chaos. But not Brienne. Where others saw finality, Brienne saw obligation. Her vow was not simply a spoken promise. It was etched into her soul. She had sworn to protect Catelyn's daughters, and so her mission now became clear: find Sansa and Arya Stark and keep them safe. This vow became her North Star. Even when others mocked her, belittled her, or told her it was pointless, Brienne pressed on. She scoured the kingdoms, following every lead, hoping to find the two Stark girls. Eventually, she discovered that Sansa Stark was in the custody of Petyr Baelish, traveling through the Vale. Brienne tried to approach her, but Sansa, understandably wary of strangers after all she had endured, refused her help. But Brienne didn't take it personally. She understood the trauma Sansa had gone through: betrayal at King's Landing, the loss of her family, and the manipulations of Baelish. So she followed from a distance, protecting Sansa from the shadows. Eventually, Brienne proved her loyalty by saving Sansa from Ramsay Bolton's men after her escape from Winterfell. And at long last, Sansa saw what her mother had seen: a protector, a friend, and someone she could trust. Let's take a moment to talk about Catelyn Stark and why her death was such a pivotal moment for Brienne. Catelyn was a mother above all else, fiercely protective of her children. In Brienne, she saw a woman with the heart of a true knight, someone who would put duty above everything, who could succeed where others had failed. When Catelyn asked Brienne to protect her daughters, She wasn't just giving an order. She was entrusting Brienne with the only thing that still mattered to her. After the Red Wedding, Brienne's grief was palpable. Her failure to protect Renly, followed by the loss of Catelyn, haunted her. She felt she had failed both of them, but she wouldn't fail again. Sansa became more than a girl to protect. She became Brienne's redemption. In protecting Sansa, Brienne honored Catelyn's memory. She transformed her guilt into purpose. Every battle she fought, every hardship she endured, became a way to fulfill the oath and to keep Catelyn's spirit alive. Brienne swore loyalty to Sansa not just because of Catelyn's words, but because she saw in Sansa the best parts of Catelyn: strength, resilience, leadership. Sansa wasn't just a duty anymore. She was family. It's one thing to swear loyalty out of obligation, but Brienne came to see that Sansa had earned her loyalty. After escaping the horrors of King's Landing and Winterfell, Sansa emerged as one of the most strategic and composed minds in Westeros. She learned from her pain. She grew stronger. At Winterfell, Sansa stood her ground against Jon Snow when needed. She called out Littlefinger for his lies and betrayals, and she defended her people during the Battle of the Bastards. Brienne watched all this unfold, and what she saw was a queen in the making. Brienne admired Sansa's strength, not the kind that comes from a sword, but the kind that comes from surviving, from enduring, from leading with grace in the face of cruelty. When Sansa officially named Brienne as her sworn sword, it wasn't a formality. It was a mutual recognition. One woman acknowledging another's loyalty. One survivor standing with another. Brienne no longer served Catelyn's daughter. She served Lady Sansa Stark, Warden of the North, not just because of a vow, but because she believed in her. She respected her. Their bond became one of the most powerful female alliances in Game of Thrones, born from pain, loss, duty, and respect. In the final season of Game of Thrones, one of the most emotional moments comes when Jaime Lannister knights Brienne of Tarth. This moment is powerful for many reasons, but especially for what it symbolizes in her journey. For so long, Brienne lived by the code of knight without ever being recognized as one. Her honor, her discipline, her sacrifices, they were unmatched. But she never wore the title. When Jaime, someone who had come to deeply respect and love her, finally bestowed knighthood upon her, it was a recognition. And in the wars that followed, Brienne stood by Sansa's side, defending Winterfell, defending the realm, and defending her oath to the end. And so, in the halls of Winterfell, beside the Lady of the North, Brienne stood, not just as a Knight of Tarth, but as the living embodiment of a vow kept through the darkest of days. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this deep dive into Brienne and Sansa's story, be sure to like, subscribe, and let us know which characters you want us to explore next. Until then, stay loyal, like Brienne of Tarth.